Hey everyone, welcome to Meeple Bits. This is part 2 of 3 of the series where I go through Shem Phillips' North Sea series. Today we're going to go through Raiders of the North Sea, a game designed by Shem Phillips, published by Garphill Games for, on its base, 2 to 4 players. There are 2 available expansions for this game, Hall of Heroes and Field of Fame. Each of these expansion allows for 1 additional player into the game. So if you have both expansions, which I don't go into in this series, you can actually play this one up to 6 players. So join me as I go through a setup and a quick playthrough of Raiders of the North Sea, the base game. Hey everybody, welcome back to a 3-player setup of Raiders of the North Sea. There's a lot happening here, so bear with me as we go through the components as well as where everything belongs and how to set it up. So to begin, you're going to go ahead and let me run through the components. You've got your black Viking workers, your gray Viking workers, and your white Viking workers. Each of these are required to do different things throughout the game. You've got provision tokens. You've got plunder, which is in every location. So this is your cattle, your gold, your iron, and your Valkyrie tokens, which I'll explain in a moment. You've got your chieftain offerings down here in the lower right. And then you've got player boards. Quick note and caveat, the player boards did come with an expansion and are not made available with the base game. But today we're just going to go through the base game, but I am using the player boards because, well, they're pretty darn convenient. You've got 2 dice to assist you on rolling, and then you've got your silver for currency. In addition, you've got your draw deck, which will include Vikings that you can hire for your crew or use throughout the game on your turn. You've got then player markers, 3 of each color to place along the red, black, and yellow tracks, which is your armor, Valkyrie, and main victory point track. And let's see. Oh, and then lastly, the draw bag. The draw bag holds the plunder, which you're going to use for setup. Okay, so that's all the components. So how do you set up the game? Well, everyone should receive 1 black worker that they'll place on their player board. You're going to place 2 black workers, so very specifically in the gatehouse and the town hall of the township here. You're going to place a flag marker on each of the 3 locations there. You're going to take the 16 offering tiles, shuffle them, draw up 3, and place them in the spots down below, as indicated by their shapes, setting the remainder off to the side. You're going to take all the plunder, put it into the draw bag, and by all the plunder, I mean Valkyries, cattle, iron, and gold. So all of this is considered plunder. All of it's going to go in here. Then what you're going to do is you're going to randomly draw out and place the plunder throughout the board. What you place is indicated in the upper left of each location by the green icon. So 4, 3, 4, 4, 4, 3, so on and so forth. So this got 4 plunder randomly drawn from the bag. This 3, this one 4, here in this harbor 1. Harbor 2, harbor 3, outpost, monastery, fortresses up top. So once you've dealt out all the plunder, then you're going to place additional Viking workers in the upper right-hand corner of each location, also as indicated by the icon in the upper right. So this harbor is going to get gray workers, and up here you're going to put white workers where indicated. All players are then going to receive 2 silver. You're going to actually hand out 5 cards to every player. They're going to choose and keep 3 for their hand. So there's a rule variant which helps the game along quite a bit, which I believe we will use today, which is, well, there's 2. One is a card draft. So every player gets 5 cards, and then you card draft them around like you would in a game like Seven Wonders, or even in the first game of this series, Shipwrights of the North Sea. But the other player variant that is described in the rules is starting with one hired worker. So this is a huge bonus for the game. So you can take of the 3 that you've selected and then hire 1 for your crew to start. This really helps expedite the game, so you can play that kind of slight rule change if you prefer. And you're good to go. So that's the components and the setup of the game. How is the game played? How are turns taken? And what's the winning condition? Well, the winning condition is victory points. And the game ends when either 1, there are no more offering tiles in the stack, meaning if there's no more here, but the last one's been placed out into the offering pool, that triggers the end game event. All players will then take 1 final turn. The second end condition is if the fortresses up top, so there's 2 up there, 2 there, and 2 over on the right side. When 5 of the 6 fortresses have been raided, then that also triggers an end game event. All players will then take 1 final turn, and then the game ends. You'll add up all of your victory points as you've accrued during the game, from other bonuses from your workers, etc. How a turn is taken? Well, pretty simple. Everyone starts with a worker. Everyone's going to end with a worker. So what you're going to do is on your turn, you're going to place a worker, a Viking, at any location that's valid for that color worker that you have in use. So here, in the township, if there's no icon indicated, then any worker can go there. Whereas here at the armory, for example, you must only place a gray or white worker. You cannot use a black worker to go there. On your turn, you will place a worker, do its action of the location, and pick up another worker that you did not place. So if I place here at the treasury, I would do its action and then pick up the town hall and also do its action. So you will always start and end with a worker in your hand. And that's it. Play continues around, players placing a worker, doing the action, picking up the worker, doing the action. And that's the game. Okay. What do those actions look like? Well, they're all described on each location of the board. I'll briefly run through them. At the silversmith, you'll get silver. With a black worker, you'll get 3. With a gray or white worker, you only get 2. At the longhouse, you can trade in cattle, which you've plundered, to get 2 provisions. Provisions are needed to raid and plunder up here, as I'll address in just a moment. So provisions. At the barracks, you can hire one of your raiders, one of your crew. So you'll notice here on each card, which I'll cover in just a moment, there's a black plus sign and then a blue kind of play icon. The black plus sign activates at the barracks, the blue at the town hall. So if you place down or pick up at the town hall, you'll do the play action of a card in your hand. At the gatehouse, 2 blue plus signs mean you will draw 2 new cards from the draw pile. At the treasury, you can discard 1 card to get 2 silver, discard 2 cards to get a gold. At the armory, you can place a gray or white worker to pay 1 iron to gain 2 armor, or pay 2 silver to gain 1 armor, which is just a little out of view, but let me see if I can move this up. There we go. And then at the mill, placing a black worker will get you 1 provision, a gray will get you 2 provisions, a white worker will get you 2 provisions, or 1 gold. And that's all the actions in the township. What are the actions up in the harbor and the places that you can raid and plunder? Well, that's ultimately your goal. So here at the harbor, you can place a black or gray worker at any one of these 3 locations to plunder any one of these 3 locations. It'll cost you 3 provisions. You must have at least 2 crew hired for your raid, and then you can plunder any location. In those instances, when you go there to plunder, you would place your your worker down. You would pay its cost. You would plunder the location. And for your pick up action, your pickup is going to be the worker here. So then this gray worker then becomes yours to use. This then is lost to the game forever. He's kind of lost at sea. He was left behind to, I guess, use the resources or stay and set up shop at that new location. Okay. In the harbor here, 1 provision 3 crew. Up here, 2 provision 2 crew. And then as you get further inland, or I guess further outland as you explore and raid, you'll notice this little red icon here as well as additional victory points. If there is 1 icon, as indicated here at the outpost, you'll get to roll 1 additional die when raiding. If there are 2, you'll roll both dice. That'll give you an additional attack while raiding those locations. Why does that matter? Because here at the outpost, if you have 8 total attack on your crew, combination of your crew and dice, you'll get 2 victory points. But if you've rated that with a total of 14 between your crew and dice, you'll get 4 victory points. So what does that look like for your crew? Well, that's the goal. On each of the cards here, you're going to see in the upper left-hand corner their value of their attack, the cost to hire them in your crew, what they do while they're in your crew, or what you do if you play them to discard. And that is actually an expansion card, so let me take this one as an example instead. So this one, attack of 2, takes 2 silver to hire. Once per raid, you may re-roll 1 die. So if he's hired in my crew, once per raid, I'll be able to roll an extra, re-roll a die. If I say rolled a 2, but I needed to get a 4, for example. Or if I activate him in the town hall using this play icon, see if I can do this, lose 1 crew member to gain 1 plunder from the supply. So whenever plunder is spent, it goes off into this general supply. If nothing is available, nothing can be gotten. Okay, so that's what you're going to do when making a decision of who to hire for your crew, is getting some additional attack or activating them for their bonuses while in your crew or from the town hall. Also here at the Longhouse, I had indicated this top row but not the bottom. This bottom one is how you're actually going to buy these offerings for the chieftain. So they're worth victory points also at the end of the game. This offering will cost you 2 silver and 1 gold. This one will cost you 2 cattle and 1 gold. You pay its cost to the general supply, taking the offering, putting it face down on your player board. There's a little spot indicated right there so that people can't see what values you have, and then draw up the next one and put it in its place. All right, so that's all the components, the setup, and everything that you got to do and how to play your turns and what the end game is. So let's go ahead and dive right in and play at least 1 round so you guys can get a quick idea of what the actions look like. So really fast, let me just look again at my crew to see if I might want to hire any of these guys. So this guy will cost me 3. I'd only have 2 silver, so I can't hire him on my first turn. But I'll gain 1 armor if I spend him at the town hall. Draw 1 card and play 1 card, and then gain 1 silver or 3 silver. Activate this card at the town hall without discarding. Activate this card at the town hall without discarding. Oh, wow, cool. Alrighty. So on my turn, I'm going to need some provisions to plunder out here. But I'm also going to need some additional silver to hire some guys. So you know what? For my first turn, I'm going to place a worker at the silversmith. I'm going to draw up 3 silver. And then for my next turn, I'm going to pull up at the gatehouse, putting this in my hand, and then doing its action, drawing up 2 new cards. 1, 2. Oh man, I left expansion cards in here. Oh, I suck. So 1, drawing up 2 cards. And that's my turn. You pick up, or you place down do its action, pick up, do its action. So now it's going to go over to player 2's turn. They're going to do the same thing. You're going to take their worker. They're going to place down at the mill, get 1 provision. And then they're going to draw up from the silversmith and gain 3 silver. And then player 3's turn. They're going to place down at the barracks. They're going to hire someone. I don't know who they have, but let's see if they can hire anyone. Ah, great. Here we go. Here's a guy, a sage. I'm going to hire this sage here. He costs 2 silver. When he's in my crew, I may take 1 additional action in the longhouse. So here. So I'm going to hire him, putting him in my crew. And then I'm going to pull up from the mill, getting 1 provision. Okay. Round and round it goes. Everyone's going to continue taking turns in that exact fashion. Place a Viking down, do its action, pick a Viking up. One thing that I didn't note was you may only have 5 crew members total. You may only have a hand of 8 or less cards. So on the player board, it actually indicates here. So you can only have 8 cards, silver, and provisions at any one time. The player boards, the final icon is from the expansion, which I plan to go through another time. Anyway, guys, that's the quick playthrough of Raiders of the North Sea. So as you can see, once you start to build up your crew, get provisions, you'll then start to take your turns and then come out here and plunder. And what that looks like, let me just address that really quickly. So, for example, if I were to come here and plunder in the harbor, I would pay up its cost, and then I would draw up this. So how the Valkyries work is they actually kill people from my crew. So to raid here, I need 2 people. And if I raided this one, I would take 2 Valkyries, but then I would also need to murder 2 people from my crew. A Viking's death is glorious, though, as we've learned throughout history. But not all is lost, because as I move up the Valkyrie track here, I also gain victory points. In addition, there's cards throughout the deck that actually give me bonuses for however many people I've lost in battle. But because I've just lost 2 workers, here, let me just go ahead and discard a couple of cards. There we go. I now have to rehire a crew, so it's kind of a trade-off. But I did also get the additional plunder, so 1 iron and 1 cattle. So I could trade in the cattle to get some food. I'll have this iron for later use, because as you'll see up here, you're also going to need gold to plunder when you get higher up. But I've placed down there, here, and then I'm going to pick up this meeple, and then that's how these additional workers get into the game. So you never own any of the Vikings that are out there, because once I use this one and I say place it down here, and I pick up from, say, the barracks, this meeple is now in play for anyone else to pick up. So even though I was the one that went out and recruited him from plundering, others are now going to gain its benefit on subsequent turns. Well, guys, that's everything. So I hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned for my afterthoughts. Hey everyone, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed and learned a little bit of that setup and playthrough of Raiders of the North Sea. So you might be looking at the massive box that I have here, because as I mentioned, there are 2 expansions available and this pretty sweet collector's box. I went ahead and got this one so that I could fit everything into one box instead of having a separate box for each of the expansions when I broke them out. So this isn't what the base game looks like. It is when you, I guess, back the later expansions. But it allowed me to put all the provisions, all the coins, all the extra stuff that came with it into the game. So if you're looking at this, this box is not the standard base game, but it is a collector's box for holding the base game plus the 2 expansions. So my thoughts on Raiders of the North Sea. My favorite game. By far, definitely in my, if I had a top 10, which maybe I'll put one up, but kind of like movies, you know, how do you ever really choose? But anyway, this is by far one of my favorite games I've ever played. I'm happy that I discovered it. It's an awesome worker placement game with some amazing mechanics. You know, I love the place down, do an action, pick up, do an action, and then you're moving on to the next player's turn. It really keeps the game moving. It keeps everyone engaged, but then it also, you know, gives you the ability to say, oh man, you know, I was kind of planning out my turn, but then I don't have the ability to place down in this location first, so now it kind of throws everything up to the whim, which is just one of those mechanics that are pretty awesome for this style of game. Another cool part about this that I really enjoy are some of the cards that come up do have a lot of the kind of take that mechanic where you can attack other people's provisions or other people's plunders. So this really kind of sets other players back. But like other games that have these sort of take that mechanics, you could get kind of picked on throughout the game, really setting you behind, making it a little less fun for you to play. But overall, it's a good balance into the game and adds a nice mechanic. But as I mentioned, I don't have a whole lot negative to say about Raiders of the North Sea, I guess other than components. In the base game, the player boards are that, flimsy card stock that, if you've seen some of my other videos, I'm not a fan of. But the rest of the components are pretty awesome. It's got the metal coins that come standard with the game. The nice wooden components for the plunder are really awesome. The chieftain tiles are nice thick cardboard stock as well, and the board is big and gorgeous. I guess another drawback of the game, or I guess an addition to the game, is if you get the expansion, then you get those nice thick player stock player boards, which is an awesome component for me. The other thing about the negative about the base game is that the provisions that come with it are just punch board. So you just get kind of the chit tokens for the provisions, which I'm not a huge fan of. In fact, a couple of years ago, when I first got this game, I found some third-party website, and I ordered little bread tokens, wooden bread tokens, to replace the provisions for. So that's just, you know, my personal take on it. But otherwise, guys, great game. If you like worker placements, this is one of those must-haves. If you don't play any other game in the North Sea series, this is the one to play. This is the one to get. It's the one that I would recommend, hands down for years to come. It's one that I've probably got to the table more than just about anything else. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. If you have any comments or any questions, please leave them down there. Thank you for all of your support as well. I got nothing else to say on this one, guys, but stay tuned for part 3 of the series where I go through the explorers of the North Sea. Anyway, guys, until next time, thanks for watching.